All right, everybody, we're going to get started here. Welcome to today's webinar. Let's give it a whole clickaroo. There we go.
Hey.
Hey, we're doing it. Welcome to today's webinar. It is Thursday, June 20th. Really happy to be with you guys today. My name is Stephanie. I'm on the event marketing team here at Internet Creations, and we are going to be talking about why Salesforce Lightning, why now? So let me introduce you to the two guys to my right here. We have our director of sales. Some fun facts about him. He has a super large Lego collection that a little bit bigger than he'd probably like to admit, and he is actually one of our Lightning champions here at Internet Creations. And then we also have our director of Salesforce Professional Services, a huge Star Wars fan, huge Marvel fan, Dan Leibowitz. Really happy to have Dan and George here with you today. Welcome, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, hi. I think we're excited. I see we're excited. We're all smiles here, so we're ready to get going.
George might be really stoic in his photo here, but he's a fun guy. All right, so some housekeeping items here. If you have questions, please let us know. You can just put them in the chat box to your right on your go-to control panel. First question for you guys. Where are you calling from or tuning in from, really? We are here at our Hamilton, New Jersey headquarters. I was going to say studio because every time I have a microphone in front of me and headphones, it always feels like a studio. We also have offices out in Dallas. We love it out there. I was just actually out in Austin for the Texas Dreaming Conference, which is a really good time. And so where are you guys? Where's everybody tuning in from? We have somebody tuning in from Knoxville, Tennessee, New Hampshire, Des Moines, Iowa. I said that right?
Yeah, I always thought it was
Des Moines, Iowa.
It's Spanish.
Mississippi, Westminster, Massachusetts, Canada.
Wow.
I like Canada.
Hi there.
Hey, West Coast, Vancouver, Canada. We have a little bit more specific, so that's fun. Some more New England folks joining us here. Welcome, everybody. It's so great to have you here. So let's get right into it. And gentlemen, I will leave it off to you.
Yeah, thanks. So thank you, Stephanie, for the wonderful intro. Hi, welcome everybody from a diverse collection of states in the United States and also Canada. Love it. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about why we should transition to Lightning now. And we'll kick off with two things that Salesforce is doing for us. One of them is auto transitioning to Lightning before Winter 20. And then also, and this is the critical update, the turning on Lightning experience with Winter 20. Dan is going to take us through both of those things. Then after that, we're going to take a look at a demonstration of how Lightning boosts productivity. We'll be taking a look at some of the beta features in Summer 19 that correspond to it. Lastly, we'll have some tips and tricks and considerations for when you do go ahead and make the jump to Lightning experience. Before we get going into the meat and potatoes, we're going to launch a poll to see where everybody is. And so I'm going to ask Stephanie, we've made eye contact. She gave me the nod. And so we've opened up a poll. And what this is asking is, by the way, we love Marvel and Marvel characters. And so what we're asking is, where are you in your Lightning transition, right? And we're just trying to see how to tailor this conversation a little bit to those folks, to see if we have folks who are just starting their journey, if they're all the way down the Bifrost, give us a bit of feedback, please, won't you?
So we'll let people continue to fill that out just for a minute or so.
Do we get to see the results after we're done?
Yeah, of course
you
will.
Awesome.
I see them live. It's really exciting.
Dan's watching them. We're collecting responses live. So we have a few more. Give it, let's say, 10 more seconds, and then we'll get right into it.
Wow. We have a lot of content, so I agree, yes.
All right. So let's close that poll and let's see if I can share the results with you. There we go. So the results here, sorry guys.
Yeah, no problem.
I need to share them with you.
Dan and I are both eager to see what we're looking at.
So we got about 50% of the people who are about to make the jump. I think, George, I think that's what you predicted yesterday during our practice run.
Yeah,
right?
some people call me the Oracle of Hamilton, New Jersey, yes. Actually, nobody calls me that.
We had about 28% said they made the jump on the Bifrost, but they still need some best practices. We got a good 17% of people claiming to be Thor, God of Thunder. So
well, I'm ready for a challenge, and we'll see if you're a true lightning champion.
And we do have about 6% of people asking, what's lightning?
Great. Well, this session is definitely for you if we're thinking about it. For those 50% who are about to make the jump to lightning, we've got some news to share with you that your timeline may be a little bit accelerated. And so one of the things that I'm going to have Dan talk us through is this auto transition to lightning. Now, we didn't come up with these words. These are the official words from Salesforce and what they're calling it. This change that Salesforce is instituting upon some of its customers may impact you in less than a month. Dan, what is this auto transition to lightning?
So funny story, we had one of our customers reach out to us, I guess it was about earlier in this week, and they asked about how come there is a little bar on top of Salesforce with a countdown to lightning. And so we looked into this a little bit, and so we learned that the auto transition to lightning program, which Salesforce announced last year, is in full effect. And really what this means is that Salesforce has deemed certain orgs ready to make the transition, and they've decided that these orgs would make the transition with less pain than others. And so what they're doing is there will be orgs transitioned in just a couple weeks into Lightning. And what this means is that all of the users from these orgs will, after this transition, they will be in Lightning as soon as they log back into Salesforce after that.
So Dan, let me ask you said just a couple of weeks. Is there some sort of milestone that this is tied to?
So it's actually been going on for about a year now where they've started this program. There's been communication happening with admins in orgs. It sounds like all the way back in February, there's some communication. And there's been a rollout plan. One thing that I will say is that Salesforce has provided resources. There is a Trailblazer community group with webinars. People are asking questions. Salesforce the goal is to really provide as many resources as possible for these orgs that, like I said, they deem will make the transition fairly simply.
Very good. So let's go next into talking a bit about the frequently asked questions around this, because I'm sure some folks may or may not know about this. And so we're glad that you're joining us. First, what's that picture you have up there in the top right corner?
So this actually is a screenshot of an org that is going to be transitioned.
Auto transition.
Auto transition,
yeah.
That's right. And so users are seeing this message at the top right-hand corner, and it is a countdown. And so, like I said, the admins received notice a while back. Users are now also receiving email notices as well. And the hope is, Salesforce's hope is that orgs that are getting this are sending out messages, really working on their transition plan as we move forward.
So for those folks that are currently working in Classic a majority of the time, it may be wise to go ahead and check after the presentation, because we want your full attention, naturally, to go ahead and check. The countdown will be right above where your setup menu is, where your app launcher is. I know I'm using a lightning term, but it's there. Have a look, right? We don't want you to be surprised. And that's really why we're having this conversation. So let's take a look at some of the frequently asked questions that we have.
Sure. So first, when is this happening?
I think I already asked you that question, so let's have a look.
So what we're seeing is that it looks like in the second week of July, there will be orgs transitioned. This is not, every org will not be transitioned during this time period. There will be cohorts that will be transitioned, but the first rollout will be what it looks like is in the second week of July.
Got it, okay. So how do I know if I'm affected? Are my users affected?
You know what? They are.
What?
So all users that are part of this program will be affected. And that means admins, that means power users, everybody. They will be transitioned to Lightning when this happens.
Got it. And what if I don't do anything? What if I just stay put, status quo?
You're moving.
I see.
No matter what, this transition will happen for orgs that are in this program.
So let me ask this to be specific. You move no matter what. What does it actually mean to move? What is the actual what do I see on like that? Let's say that it's July 9th. Let's say that I move. What happens on July 10th?
It's a really good question, because this does not mean that you are stuck in Lightning and that's it.
Okay.
What this means is that when a user will log in, they will be in the Lightning experience. Now, with that said, they will have the ability to switch back to Classic. So if, that's the next question.
Wow. Do you want to take my Oracle title?
So yes, Classic is still available. They can when we say temporarily switch, what we mean is that Salesforce is really pushing this move. And so on a constant basis, Salesforce will then switch you back into Lightning. And what it looks like is about every week, they will push the users back into Lightning.
Yeah, they call that a rolling basis, and we can't find a definition in terms of a definitive number. So when Salesforce has done something on a rolling basis, it's been roughly weekly, and so that's why we're just thinking weekly. Now, what happens if I'm apprehensive? I'm not ready to get auto transitioned. What happens, Dan? What can I do?
So what we've seen is that there is a survey that can be filled out. We provided a link here. If you are in this group, you can request a delay. And just to make clear, we will be making this presentation available right after. So you will be able to click on this link and you can request a delay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just to be clear, what I did read is that while you can request a delay right now, it still means with a delay, you could still be getting auto transition during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not mean that you will be delayed for all too long. Also, what's really important to note is that if you are delayed, there's no promise that the resources that Salesforce is providing right now, as in this Trailblazer group and so forth, will be available afterwards.
I do have a question that came in from one of our attendees.
Mm-hmm.
They are the new Salesforce admin for their organization.
Congratulations, welcome.
How do they know if their org is going to auto transition?
So there's a couple of things. So if this is a new work, then you probably did not receive information for a while, but you should still see this bar in the top right-hand corner with a countdown. And
so if they don't see the bar, they're not auto transitioning.
You should be fine. And just to make clear, what it seems like is this auto transition is really happening for smaller companies that have minimal customizations. So if you are in a company that has many customizations, that there's code that's in there, Apex and so forth, Salesforce is not going to be pushing this transition.
All right, so we've got a few more. Thank you for the question, and please keep them coming. That's a really good one. So we have some more information with links underneath here. There is a whole Trailblazer community group, I heard you say, Dan.
Yes.
So this is auto transition. What we're going to talk about next is the critical update. And this is a larger initiative that has come out from Salesforce. It's coming in winter 20. Dan, tell us a little bit about what this critical update means and how it's different from the auto transition, please.
Sure. So anyone that is an admin will go into setup and see your critical updates. And at some point, you're going to either want to activate them, you're going to want to understand what the impact is. This critical update of Turn On Lightning Experience has been around for about a year now, just letting everyone know that in October, Lightning Experience will be turned on if you do not activate it sooner. So what does that actually mean? This is different than the auto transition. And the idea is, and we're really just pulling this right from Salesforce's help, is that anyone that is in a standard profile after this happens will have Lightning turned on, and once that happens, will be in Lightning. But they can still switch back out and work in Classic. Once again, on a rotating basis, Salesforce will push them back into Lightning. Now, if you are in a custom profile, if you have the Lightning Experience user permission checked off, you will also have this happen as well.
Yeah, so, and we'll show that in the demo in a bit where you can find these things. Now, Dan, I have a simple org. Let's do a scenario. I have a
Sure.
simple org and I have just standard profiles. Can I keep my users in Classic the whole time?
So the answer is no.
Okay.
So all standard profiles will be shifted over to Lightning. Now, we would definitely recommend that you don't just use standard profiles. And the reason being is that they are not editable.
I see.
And so because of that, we always recommend that you would at least clone your standard profiles, make the customizations that are needed, and then you have the ability to decide whether or not you want that Lightning Experience user permission checked off or not.
Got it. Okay. So I think this concludes our portion of the public service announcement, right? About here's how we're preparing, or here how Salesforce is going to impact you with their turning on of Lightning and the time frames. Don't get Dan or I or Stephanie wrong. We love ourselves some Lightning. Our company has been on it for better part of a year, more than a year, and we've helped dozens of companies come over to Lightning as well. And so the next portion of our conversation is going to be around how does Lightning boost your productivity. So first, a bit of a primer on what is Lightning. It is not scary. Lightning is a redrawing of the general user interface, a GUI, graphic user interface, the GUI, and Salesforce is making the shift away from Classic, which has always been data entry, and moving into workflow productivity. For those folks who have recently been in Classic or are currently in Classic, you know very well that there's a two-row view, a two-column view, and you're just inputting data. Salesforce said, roughly about 3 years ago, I think they came out with Lightning in a usable way, that said, we want to do more. We want to innovate. And their focus has been now on making things easier to perform in Salesforce, your daily work tasks, whether it's working through an opportunity, whether it's qualifying a lead, whether it's working through a case.
I would actually call these now workspaces. So like George, like you mentioned, instead of this being just data entry, the idea is how do we make users have a workspace environment where we can make you more efficient, or Salesforce can make you more efficient, and we can improve workflow right on the screen itself. So I think that's really what the push is all about. And like I said, this is not just about, I mean, part of this is let's make it pretty,
right?
And that's what they call the Lightning experience. But the way that the actual Lightning is built out with Lightning components and things of that nature, the flexibility that it gives to admins, as you can see on this screen, how do we put everything for the users right front and center to improve their overall performance?
So Dan, I have a question for you, but let me make a point, and it's one that I, Stephanie, shamelessly told you about me, and that's Legos, right? Think of Lightning as a big Lego base plate. It's that big green studded square that we all used to play with when we were kids. Some of us still play with as adults. And you could put Lego blocks in different sizes or colors where you see fit. It's meant to be personalized to you. Now, Dan, the question that I have for you is, this all looks very pretty. I grew up on Classic. This looks like a Visualforce page to me. This looks highly complex with all the colors and functionality. I imagine this is all Visualforce, right?
So none of this here is Visualforce. And so each of these, we'll call them blocks, are Lightning components. And none of this here, what you're seeing on the screen, requires any kind of code. Salesforce really tries to really push for clicks before code. I'm sure everyone has heard that before. And so the idea is let's put the power of making sure that we can fully customize the experience. Before, you had the ability to change where the fields were on a page and where your related lists were. Now you can take a look and really change the entire experience of the page, put what is most important where you need it at what time.
Great. So we have why Lightning, right? Now let's talk about, besides Salesforce kind of edging us closer and closer into adopting Lightning right away, let's talk about why now. So I think that there's a couple of risks of remaining in Classic. Dan, can you talk to us a bit about the upper portion, and I'll talk about the costs?
Sure. So really the idea here is that Salesforce has made a pledge that they will not be making any kind of fully innovating or adding any new features in Classic at this point. And that's really been the case for the past, I'd say, 2 years. So when you look at features such as Einstein, macros, path, we are going to get into some of the more recent features that have come out and some are in preceding releases that are just adding functionality to productivity. None of this is happening in Classic. So if you really want to take advantage of Salesforce and of your purchase, the best option is to move to Lightning at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a fellow Salesforce luminary, some of you folks might know, especially if you're in Texas, Shell Black, made a very popular post in the Trailblazer community. It's going to be going on 2 years now, titled "Classic is Dead." Right? It's just done. And the reason why is he did a bit of an analysis in the release notes, and again, this is going to be going back a few years, that the word Lightning is so much more prevalent in the release notes of Salesforce than Classic is. It is clear which way Salesforce is headed. Now, something else to consider is, since all of this wonderful functionality and workflow productivity is happening in Lightning, if you want to reproduce that and have parity with that feature functionality, it's you, the end user, who's going to have to innovate and pay for that cost of innovation in Classic. You're likely already paying Salesforce for your Salesforce licenses. Do you also want to be paying for that innovation? Our recommendation is let Salesforce do that for you. You pay the license cost, do so, let them innovate on your behalf. That's probably one of the main trigger points to come over to Lightning.
And just to add to that, one thing that we've realized is that in the past, a lot of the custom code that we've built for users is now being added to Lightning. And so instead of having to really add a lot of custom code at this point, like George mentioned, Salesforce is doing it for you and in a way that admins can actually manage themselves.
So let's take a look at some lagging indicators of how folks have had success with adopting Lightning. And so on the next slide, what we'll see is we have wonderful results, right? These are the lagging indicators. So 41% increased productivity after coming over to Lightning. 21% win rate. Boy, would I love that addition to my sales team, right? That's awesome. Imagine what you could do with that. The reporting is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't seen a Lightning dashboard or report, my goodness, give me a call sometime, I'll show you. Very good. So now what's coming up next is Dan's going to take some time to transition into a live demo environment where we want to demonstrate some of the newest features, beta features, that are coming in the summer 19 release. Before we get there, we wanted to share with you and close the loop kind of on where you can identify if you are being, Dan, help me out, auto-transitioned?
Auto-transitioned.
Right, auto-transitioned. And so where you would find that is, well, tell us, Dan, I'm not going to tell them.
So it's going to be in the top right-hand corner. So if you didn't recognize it from that screenshot, you will see, if you're going to be auto-transitioned, the countdown right up here. Keeping in mind that if you see, some users wouldn't see this black bar. This black bar is because we have a community ourselves, but you will definitely see the countdown in the top right-hand corner.
Good. Now, Dan, another thing that I had a question about was, how can I see if I have that little checkbox in my profile that makes me go into the Lightning experience? So
this is a profile. This is one of our custom profiles, and you'll see here Lightning Experience User is the permission itself. And if this is checked off, once you are in the critical update, you will at that point be transitioned. But as we mentioned before with the critical update, this can, as long as it's a custom profile, you can go ahead and uncheck this and your users won't be forced to Lightning during that rotating basis.
And so if I have if I heard you correctly, this is a custom profile.
Yes.
And I can check this box on or off.
Yes.
Can I do that in a standard profile?
You cannot. No, standard profiles, once again, are not editable, and so it is what it
It's
is.
just not entering my thick head, I guess.
That's right.
So let me ask you, Dan, about why should we be switching to Lightning? What are some of the new summer beta features that you'll show us next?
Sure. So, in our last webinar last year, we showed some features such as path. We showed some features as macros being added to all objects. I wanted to focus on a couple of the features that not only just bring parity between Classic and Lightning, but I think are really great additions. So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. So right now I'm on an account record. And as you can see, I have my related list here for opportunities. Now, if you have accounts with many, many different opportunities or other related lists with lots of records, what's really important is that this list could get very long. So one feature that recently got rolled out in the summer is now these lists have filters added to them. So imagine if you have this really long list, on this opportunity filter, I can just say, give me only my prospecting opportunities, apply it, and it'll filter it for you. So the ability to shorten that related list and be able to really dissect what the information is instead of having to click in, that's really powerful. So filters in related lists, that's the one feature that I really liked.
Interesting.
Another one, now, list views. We all use list views. This is something that's been going on for, that users have used forever. One thing that I was really curious about, George, is how do you currently in Classic, what are the features in list views that you currently have?
Yeah, so I can create a list view if I have that permission to do so. I can create a new record. I can sort, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I can sort by clicking on the header. It's pretty limited, I guess. Is that where you're kind of leading me to?
That sounds great. No, so in Lightning, there's so many more features that they've added to list views that I think make them really, really powerful. And the first thing that you're going to see here is search. So this is really a great feature. Now, let's call it an in-process feature because you can't search every single field type. But I will tell you that they are adding new field types all the time. And so for instance, one field type that is just being added in the summer release is pick lists. So I can just search, give me just my records that are in the prospecting stage, and you can see it came up. It's another way, just like in the related list that I showed you, to be able to fine tune this. One perfect use case for this is if you have many different list views for all of your different stages. Maybe give me all my prospecting opportunities. Do you have that, George?
Yeah, are you telling me that I could maybe get rid of the 50 list views that I have for my 50 different opportunity stages?
Maybe 25 you can get rid of.
Oh, wow.
But because of that, the search function is really powerful, and it's going to become more powerful as they add in more field types.
Allow me to answer a question that hasn't been asked, or that is, why Lightning, right? That question keeps coming up. Why Lightning? Well, search this list. It might be you may consider it a small feature. I actually consider it pretty powerful. Is that available in Classic?
It is not.
Will it ever be available in Classic?
Never. And so what that means is that, once again, Salesforce is only adding these features to Lightning at this point. The other feature in list views that I think is really fun, and my consultants use this to manage their work, is the ability to access now Kanban lists in list views.
And what's the impact here? Why would we care to move over to a Kanban view from a list view? Oh, from a, I guess, record view.
So Kanbans, as it's loading right now, Kanbans
hang tight.
It give you the ability to actually move records along different stage processes, sales processes, without having to actually go into the record itself. Okay, so very easily I can just grab onto, we call it a card, and move it over. When I let go, it's going to actually change the field itself.
I see.
Okay, so you can see I'll move it over to needs analysis. That stage actually updated on that record. So what this does is when we talk about efficiency, It's allowing users to be able to edit records, move quickly without having to click into the record itself.
Got it. Is there anything new that you could show us in reports or reporting functionality?
Definitely, yes. And so currently right now in the summer release, one feature that I think is great that they just added is the ability to search. So you can see that there's a theme here that I like. And so you can actually search the report table now from reports. So I know a lot of people will like to click Control F. Well, you have that functionality right in Salesforce right now. And so what you'll see is, since we like to stick with the theme of prospecting, as I start typing it in, it will highlight the values that show based on your typing.
So I selfishly and personally, I'll give my viewpoint on this. I work within more reports than I do in list views, and I typically have more records in my reports. And so this is very impactful for me, where I can narrow down where am I looking for pros, apparently.
Pros, yes.
Now, Dan, you told me when we were preparing for this that there were some features that were not able to be shown in a live environment because they were just not enabled for us or not accessible, but still worth mentioning. Would you mind transitioning back to our demonstration presentation, I should say, presentation?
Yes,
and
definitely.
take us through one or two other features?
Yeah, sure. So as you can see, there are some features that are in beta right now. You can enable this, okay? This is something you can enable, and it's enhanced related lists. So what this is doing is this is giving you the ability to add more columns to your related lists. It's also giving you the ability to wrap text and things of that nature. So why is this important? One thing that we know in Lightning is that if you might have a central column, you might have a right column and a left column, which lowers the space where there can actually be some data. So since the space is more narrow, at times what Salesforce did is it only allowed for 4 columns in related lists. Now with enhanced related lists, you can add, as I said, many columns, as many as you want. There'll be a scroll bar, as you can see at the bottom here. And like I said, you can do wrap text in case there is longer phrases that you need to view.
So this is a massive, I may not call it a time saver, but definitely a click saver for me. Because as anybody who's in Lightning knows, if you want to see more than 4 fields in a related list, you have to click the view all. And then we're taken to a new page and we see all 10. We here at Internet Creations have actually started to account for this. Now we can reverse that. We start to consolidate some information so they fit into, we may have 3 pieces of information in one field, just so we have more information. So we can undo that. That was a kind of like trick or hack to get away from it. This is such a huge relief for me.
And one thing I just want to make clear, because Salesforce likes to put these little messages on here. Since this is in beta, Salesforce is not supporting this feature until it moves into GA. But like I said, you can enable this right now. So that's the first that I wanted to bring up. The second, which is so exciting for admins, is row level formulas. So in the past, you were only able to create a formula in a report and it would only show up on the summary level.
So let me stop you there for those folks who may not know what that means. What is a summary level?
So in reports, when you group by a field, okay, there's always the summarization at the bottom of the grouping.
Okay. And so we could only, what I'm hearing you say there is we could only report or create formulas on a specific amount of fields, and that may have not been the field that you wanted to. For me, it was always kind of like a chance. Is it going to be available for me to report on or not? So are you telling me that that's changing now?
Yeah, so whenever you create a formula now, you have the ability for that formula to populate on the row level instead of having it to only populate for the total group. Our workaround in the past as admins would be to create random fields on the records to account for this reporting.
So let me see if I can get an example right here, right? One of the things that I look at is expected amount. And an expected amount for me, and this is a standard field, I believe, in Salesforce, but allow me for illustrative purposes. Expected amount is the multiplication of amount times probability. And so Are you saying, Dan, now that I could just write that formula out and have an expected amount field?
Yes, and it would be right in the report.
Awesome.
And you won't have to create these, like I said, random custom fields on your records.
That's awesome. Okay.
Okay. And the other thing that I really wanted to mention, because I think this is really cool that Salesforce is adding this, is in-app guidance for training and onboarding. This is coming out in the summer release, so most of you should have this available to you. And what this means is this is going to allow you to create prompts for your users based on the point that they are in their business process. The prompts might pop up on the sidebar. It could pop up on the utility bar. It can link them to videos. It can link them to different help information.
Trailheads.
Yeah. And so this is basically giving them guidance as to what to do when.
That's great. Wow, definitely beneficial, impactful for onboarding.
Yes.
Especially if you're in a larger org and you're bringing on large classes of folks and they're using Salesforce for some or all of their work. Yeah, that's really impactful.
And just, what I did to find some of these features is I asked my consultants what would be helpful for your customers. And so this is one that one of my consultants mentioned, that this is really impactful. When we roll out Salesforce for an org, they all, this is new for them.
Mm-hmm.
So having something like this is definitely important.
Fantastic. Okay, Dan, you've done a great job convincing me and influencing me, right? Awesome. So now, would you be able to take us through some of the considerations to make before we jump on that Bifrost and come over into, what's Thor's home planet? I forget now.
Well, it's no longer anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Whoops.
Take us through some considerations, please.
Sure. So what I think is really, really important is that whenever you're getting ready to make this transition, you really want to create an adoption team. And this team is going to work together to figure out what steps have to be taken to actually make the transition. First and foremost, you need a champion. So you can see that we put the champion right in the center. They are going to be leading this initiative throughout. They're going to be the ones to make sure that they're pulling together an executive sponsor. They're pulling together business leaders to find out what is going to be more impactful. Remember, with Lightning, we want to really push for less scrolling and more clicking to save some time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really pushing for that. You'll see that obviously the admin is extremely important, the developer, to making sure that we can make this transition. And also change management. This is something that typically is forgotten in smaller orgs, but creating a process for change management is really important, especially in such a big change here.
Now, I imagine, Dan, that there's multiple ways, or is there only one way of rolling out Lightning? Talk to me a bit about approach.
So there are two different approaches that we've seen. So one approach is more org-wide, where you're rolling out Lightning to the entire company all at once. The others is more of a phased approach where you can roll it out by department, as an example. We've done it both ways for customers. I would say for the org-wide approach, you can see that it's going to be consistent, right? Same time, everybody. That's definitely going to help for resource purposes if you have a smaller admin team, because they can make sure that they're putting all their resources in at the same time. And shared learning is definitely something that is beneficial. Now, if you have a larger org where it's more complicated, but also a larger admin team, a phased approach might work. I can tell you here at Internet Creations, we took the phased approach when rolling out Lightning. So we rolled out department by department. Actually, it was first sales, I think.
Yeah.
It was the first department that we rolled out.
Thanks a lot.
This was about 1.5 years ago, actually. And so what this does is this allows for controlled groups to test, make sure that they're comfortable before moving on to the next team.
So when I launch one of my teams in a phased rollout, when I launch one of my teams, is there something I should be doing between, let's call it phases, I guess?
Definitely collect feedback. That's so important. Lightning is really about the user experience. And so you want to make sure that you are giving them something that is going to improve efficiency. And so get that feedback, make sure you can make tweaks. Lightning gives you the ability to make tweaks for that experience.
Wonderful. So I've done my pre-work, right? I've got my team. I've identified the team members. I've decided on an approach. Now I need to know the tactical, the how. What do I do next?
So I think the most important thing is run your readiness report. And so in Salesforce, you can run the Lightning Experience Readiness Report. This report is going to give you a list of everything that has to be done. It'll actually tell you what Salesforce, the amount of hours that Salesforce thinks it will take to complete this. One thing just to make clear, it does not tell you the amount of hours for Visualforce pages to be converted over. That is another report that is linked within the readiness report. So definitely run this, get a feel for what has to be done. I will also let you know that on the App Exchange, you will find the Lightning Experience Transition Toolkit. This toolkit gives you a number of different tools that will allow you to make the transition a little bit easier. So as you can see, there's links to accessing your readiness report, your Visualforce check. There's a Lightning usage, which is showing you adoption, so which will help in the entire process.
I think that there's one missing here, isn't there though? There's one you talk about a lot. Is it called like Movie Maker or something like that?
Magic Mover.
I see.
And so the magic, one thing that I think we all know at this point is that Salesforce is doing away with attachments and moving everything to files. So there is an app that we use as consultants called Magic Mover. You can find it on the App Exchange, and this is something that will take your attachments, move it to files. It also deals with notes. There is the enhanced notes object that we are using now in Lightning. It will also move notes over to the enhanced notes functionality.
Wow, great. Well, thank you for that, Dan, and thank you for taking us through all the tools that are available. If you find out or if you feel that this is going to be too much of a heavy lift, Internet Creations is a registered Salesforce partner, and we're more than happy to lend a hand. Typically, we start off asking for a readiness assessment or a readiness check, so we know, I should say readiness report, right? So we know what we're dealing with, and then we'll have a consultative phone call where we can see what's going on, what are your hopes and dreams, and how can we make your vision possible? So with that, we're going to transition to the last portion of this presentation, and that is your questions, please. I have a question for Dan, but I want to reserve that till the end.
So Brandy wants to know if they already have a Marketo integration, is there anything to ensure that the sync remains working?
So that's a really good question. One thing when we're transitioning orgs, we always want to make sure that you are testing any kind of updates. Most of the third-party applications now are Lightning ready. I do say most because not all of them are. I can tell you we use Marketo internally and we're using it in the Lightning experience. My recommendation is make sure that you transition in your sandbox first, update your package, and your Marketo package, and so you can see if there's anything that has to be tweaked. Some of the third parties have changed their functionality so that there are now Lightning components. So it might be that you have to update your package and then also add a new Lightning component or two onto the pages.
So our next question has to do with the dashboard that we were looking at earlier in the presentation about the new dialer. So this person already has a current dialer that they use called Fast Call. Will the dialer be standard with Lightning, the Salesforce dialer?
So there is a CTI that's built within Salesforce, but that doesn't mean you have to use it in Lightning. There are numerous third-party CTIs such as Fast Call, and you can definitely use that within Lightning. Most of these, at this point, I would say most, if not all CTIs are Lightning ready. And so once again, you might have to update your package. There might be a Lightning component that you have to add, but definitely check on the App Exchange. It's at the bottom of the page where it will say if it's Lightning ready or not.
Okay, so our next question is about Internet Creations specifically and one of our applications.
Oh boy.
So Safe Harbor, of course, will Internet Creations be updating the case comment page to Lightning?
Oh, wow, and everybody's looking at me here. So Safe Harbor, please make your purchases based upon information that's available today, not future looking information. But the answer is yes. Our product team and innovation teams are working furiously to get a new comment page Lightning ready, and I've seen it. It looks gorgeous. And along with that, not only the new comment page, but also the case presentation layers coming across with it too.
I actually see them typing their code right now as we speak.
Maybe we should wave to them.
Furiously typing. Okay, and our next question is from Giancarlo. Wants to know, is there a tool to transition to Visual Force pages, in some sort of automatic way?
Yes, so you can see there, I think it's the configuration converter. That's one tool that you can use. So it is on the App Exchange right now. So that is something where it can help changing the scripts. I'll be honest, I am not a developer, so I'm not even positive if our developers have used this. So I'm not promoting this tool at all right now. But this is something that Salesforce has provided to help with that process.
I've walked through the the Trailhead module for converging JavaScript buttons to work with Lightning. I'm not a developer. I was able to do it with some level of effort. Any admin will not have a challenge with this. I think the question was more around Visual Force
That takes
pages.
care of, I'm pretty sure it takes care of both.
Yeah.
And what I can make sure is that I will confirm that with my team and we can send out a message. But I'm pretty sure it is the configuration converter.
Got it.
Okay, and our next question that comes in is, where can we find more information about new features that are exclusive to Lightning?
Release notes.
It's almost exclusively Lightning now, right?
Yes, yeah. So in the Salesforce release notes now, there is one section that says Lightning, but I will tell you that as you're looking, really, I think the majority of all the release notes are Lightning at this point. They're not making any changes to Classic. So if you go to the release notes, you will, that's the best place to go to see all the new features.
And what's your question, George?
My question was, have you figured out what Thor's home planet was yet?
I mean, that question, it came up, so I'm drawing a complete blank right now.
The answer is Asgard. I remembered it.
Okay, then.
I was just testing Dan. Dan loves
Now I feel like a
comic
jerk.
books and no.
So we have another question that just came in.
Sure.
How does Lightning impact the community experience?
Ooh, so I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to talk a bit more about excitement, and then I'll let Dan handle that question. I'm super excited because as I know communities, specifically templated communities, they look a lot like Lightning for the end user. And so I love that marriage of what it looks like for an end user, how I can work within Dan's going to slap me, community builder maybe, is very similar to how you can build out your pages to look in Lightning. So I don't think it is a great impact. It is a great impact. I don't think it changes much how communities and Lightning works together.
So just to make the distinction, when we say the Lightning experience, that is the user interface. The Lightning platform is what Salesforce is using to build everything that they're doing at this point. So communities have been rebranded to be built off the Lightning platform right now. So it really depends upon if you have an older community or if you have a newer community, there is new features to build with communities. Communities now uses, like George mentioned, Lightning templates. There's Lightning components that can be used. So there's new functionality. So based on how old your community is, I mean, it potentially could use some updates. But like I said, anything that you're doing in Salesforce to improve for the Lightning experience for your users, that doesn't impact on what happens in the community. You don't have to touch your community whatsoever. Switching over to Lightning will not do anything for your community. Will not make any changes. Yeah,
and the major breaking line there is, do you have a Visual Force based community, which Dan says it's a matter of time. Yes, we started transitioning off of those, and now we're in templated communities, which is built on the Lightning platform, where I believe Visual Force based communities are not.
And what's really important again is that as we mentioned, there are no new features coming out for this older platform, and so you can definitely stay on your older community if you have Visual Force and tabs and things like that, but you won't benefit from the new features that they're rolling out.
I love this volume of questions that we're getting. This is awesome.
We have another one.
Oh, boy.
So this is another Internet Creations one. I believe probably deserves another safe harbor.
Okay.
But Victor wants to know how Simple Survey is affected by Lightning.
So it's affected by Lightning in no significant way. It will continue to function as is. So Simple Survey is a transactional survey tool that Internet Creations has created, and sending out emails. I'm pausing here because Howard, our product manager, has stepped into the room. I guess he heard the question.
It's not affected by Lightning.
And he says it's not affected by Lightning. It will work just as it works in Classic.
But we do have some exciting stuff.
Yes. So
Forward-looking statements.
safe
harbor.
We'll put a safe harbor on this too. We are changing how the survey will look when a customer receives it, and also some of the landing pages. We're also making it more mobile friendly to have a more fluid experience for our end users.
So we'll be hanging out here for the next two minutes or so. So please let us know what other questions that you have. We're here for you. And you can always send us an email if you think of a question after this, info@internetcreations.com.
Yeah, let's have one more question. Let's see what else. Let's have one more. If we have one more, that's great. Why? Should we not?
What's for lunch? That's my question. No, I'm just joking.
Yes, we hopped on at midday and we haven't had time to eat yet. So let's wrap this up, and I'm going to let Stephanie take us through what our next webinar is going to be.
Okay, so we have something really exciting that we're launching for the first time. We will be launching a 4-part series starting in July called Transforming Your Service Organization. Our first part of this is around proactive versus reactive support to drive success. This 4-part series is going to really help marry customer service and customer support so that you can deliver the best experience for the customers. If you are in the service, if you are working with service, you probably know that the customers are demanding and wanting it more and more. And it's up to us to really keep up with their demands. So how can you deliver a better customer service or customer experience? You can tune in starting July. The signups are available right now. You can use that short link at the bottom and just type it into your browser, or you can just head to internetcreations.com/events, and that'll get you there as well. So this concludes our Lightning webinar for 2019. Thank you everybody so much for joining us. Thank you for all of the fantastic questions. Again, if you think of anything else, we are here to help you. We have an amazing team full of brilliant people who do this
day in and day out.
Day in, day out. So info@internetcreations.com is the quickest way to send in a question, start a conversation, and we can't wait to see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Much.